WMAL.
Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall.
105.9 FM.
At AM 630.
WMAL.
637 on WMAL. This is where Washington comes to talk, and you're listening to Mornings on the Mall with Brian and Larry. Keep it right here for our traffic and weather every 10 minutes as we continue to keep you updated as what could be a treacherous commute in. And also check the WMAL Storm Center there at WMAL.com for all school delays and closures. Coming up later this morning, 7:05, Joe DeGeneva, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. At 8:05, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, former congressman. He has some harsh opinions of the president's no-show in Paris this weekend. And then at 8:35, Christian Toto, film critic. I'll talk to him about what happened last night at the Golden Globes. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson.
Well, joining us right now is Lanny Davis, a former White House attorney at in the Clinton administration, and a man who's a good friend of this program. Lanny, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We heard that you had some interesting things to say about the fact that 44 world leaders marched in solidarity with the people of France yesterday. Some 3.7 million people took to the street, including 44 world leaders. Our president stayed at home and apparently watched football. Your thoughts?
Well, I start out by reminding everyone that I support Barack Obama. I support almost all his policies. I voted for him twice. And when I say anything even slightly doubtful about a judgment that he makes, it's not attacking his motives or personally, and the vile, vast right-wing, hateful response that I get by challenging him for being a Muslim or worse makes me sorry that I said anything. So let's start out by, unfortunately, I hope your listeners at least accept the fact that I was sad, perplexed, and upset as I saw the remarkable sight of Prime Minister Netanyahu and the President of the Palestinian Authority, Abbas, as well as the Chancellor Angela Merkel, David Cameron, almost everybody on television with their arms linked. And I remembered when 9/11 occurred, Le Monde had a headline, "We are all Americans."
Yes.
And we should have been there. Now, whether the President has a good reason because of national security and the difficulty of protecting him on short notice doesn't explain. There was simply silence. No John Kerry, who thought India couldn't have been interrupted. He could have jumped on a plane and been there. I don't understand that. Vice President Biden, there's just no explanation. The White House.
Well, here's one that's even more
to communicate.
Here's even one that's more baffling. The Attorney General of the United States was in Paris and chose not to march, apparently.
You know, I have always disclosed my friendship and high regard for Eric Holder, and I simply do not understand that decision. I believe it wouldn't have been his alone. That's just my hope. I have a feeling Eric Holder's heart that he should have been there, but the notion that their explanation is the U.S. ambassador to France was there, excuse me, she's already there.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes no sense as an explanation. So I think the White House, in all of the years of Barack Obama, I have said they don't communicate well. And that's what they're supposed to do. The only person all Americans vote for is the president. Why hasn't the White House explained this? Even as we speak, I simply raise the question. I don't understand. I accept a good faith judgment that I believe was a mistake, and I'm very sad about it.
Lanny, you mentioned the U.S. ambassador to France. Her name is Jane Hartley. You're right. She was already there. And let's face it, I mean, you know how administrations work. There are some ambassador jobs that are strategic diplomatic positions, and that there are some that they're referred to as reward positions. Generally speaking, the role of ambassador to France and Monaco, by the way, she covers both France and Monaco, that's kind of a reward.
Tough duty.
And in this case, it was a reward for being a campaign bundler. She raised over $820,000. The fact that she's not really a career diplomat, that she's really there in that position as a reward for being a campaign fundraiser, that makes it even a little worse, doesn't it?
Actually, no, I respectfully disagree. That go into her background and question her. I don't simply agree with that. I don't believe it's significant that your own ambassador could be a Nobel Prize winner. Your own ambassador is already there.
Yeah.
The heads of state, when you saw the photograph of heads of state from all over the world. You had Poroshenko from Ukraine, and you had the foreign minister Lavrov from Russia.
Yeah.
This is a symbolic moment for the world to come together when you have Abbas and Netanyahu. There had to be somebody close, if not President Obama, then at least Vice President Biden or Secretary of State Kerry. Don't tell me that Secretary of State Kerry in India was more important.
Right.
To me, I just simply say it was a misjudgment. I have a feeling they regret it. They should have explained it right away and stepped up to the line and said, we blew this one. We should have been there. And then I would
that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Lanny, you do know how White Houses work, and these things don't happen by accident. Obviously, the conversation was had. You just mentioned something. I want to go back to it. You said about your friend Eric Holder, who was in Paris, who chose not to go to the march. You said, I hope that wasn't his decision alone. Is it possible that somebody in the White House said, Eric Holder, we don't want you there. Don't be there on behalf of the U.S.?
I have no idea. I aside from CNN and I believe Fox, I saw no mention of answering these questions from the White House by the White House press corps. Where were they yesterday? I mean, there was certainly a lot about the Golden Globes. I read the USA Today main story. I love USA Today. The main story didn't even mention the absence of the United States. There was a little sidebar that the U.S. ambassador was there with no question from the White House. Do you think that's sufficient? Something in the mainstream media yesterday decided to ignore this one. Now, maybe today it changes. I just hope we get an explanation. And again, I accept a good faith judgment. It was a bad judgment, in my opinion, but I still don't attack the sincerity of President Obama in deciding not to go. But I think you're right. He did decide not to go. It wasn't an accident.
Well, even before
he may have been informed by the Secret Service that he couldn't go, but there should be an explanation.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is even before I saw this little clip from Fox News, I predicted this is exactly what the administration would say. Here's Peter Doocy on Fox News.
Heather, we know the reason President Obama didn't go to Paris for the big unity rally is that his security detail is apparently just too big. And a senior administration official tells us all those Secret Service agents can be distracting, and they didn't want to take away attention from the millions of French citizens who were marching.
I don't buy that at all. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu travels with a pretty good security detail. The German chancellor travels with a pretty good security detail. I mean, do you buy that argument?
It's not persuasive, but who is speaking? That is a Fox guest.
No, that was Peter Doocy. Peter Doocy reporting on what the administration had said.
Excuse me, what's the source of that report? I don't buy anonymous whispering in the ear explanations. Where was the president's press secretary yesterday?
Oh, you're right.
No
one was speaking on the record. No. You're right. No one was speaking on the record.
This is important for the world to know why we, the president, the administration decided. Not whispering in a reporter's
You're right.
ear.
You're right, Lanny. I agree. By the way, don't tell me I didn't do you any favors. I'm going to throw a softball at you. What would President Hillary Clinton have done this weekend? Would she have been there?
I don't know. The fact I saw some people criticizing her for not speaking out, or any other presidential candidate. There is a difference between not being a candidate and thinking about being a candidate, or being a candidate and being the president of the United States representing our country. So come on. The answer is she has a big heart, as long as I've known her, and I don't know what she would have done or said. I can hope.
If she was president, you don't think
she feels the way I do, but I can't.
Oh, all right,
it's not fair, by the way, to extrapolate from me to her. We're friends. I don't speak for her. Have not talked to her.
I know. I just asked you to speculate as someone who knows her well.
All right. Well, Lanny, thank you so much. Yes. Always a pleasure.
Good to have you, sir. 6:45 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the 5s. I thought that was an easy. You could have said. Of course, she would have been there. I think she would have been there. Here's Chris.